that 3 of the commissioners were getting together, not at a public meeting, to discuss issues in regards to the Sportsplex. Are you aware of any of those types of meetings?
I am not aware of that. The commissioners talk sometimes out of sitting in front of an open meeting. Sure, do we make decisions? No, that's a violation. Yeah, do you pitch ideas at one another? Sometimes that you do, but there again, it's not in anything that is open meetings violations. There's not decisions being made, so no, I don't agree. I've not participated in violations of Open Meetings Act. I think our commission is really a stand-up group of people that are out here trying to do the best that can be done, and everybody's got some different ideas, which is great because we're not all kind of one group that's got one idea and we're just trying to ramrod that through.
Live from the Talk Radio WRNR studios, it's time for Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob Mario.
Thank you, Cliff Maxwell, and good morning. Welcome into the program. Eastern Panhandle Talk is produced by Kyler High, Kai High, the sports guy, and brought to you in part by elder care attorney Danny Staggers in downtown Martinsburg. Also by Parsons Ford of Martinsburg. We became number one by making you number one first at Parsons. Let's welcome in our co-host. He is a retired admiral, former president of the Berkeley County Commission. He's got his own institute, and they were very busy last night, Mr. Bill Stubblefield.
They were busy, had a very good event last night, and most enjoyable, most informative. Good morning, Rob.
And good morning, Bill. And among those in attendance, our second co-host today, Maria Lawrenson, recently retired from hospice at the Panhandle, former editor of the Journal. Good morning, Maria.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Did you enjoy the event last night?
Yes, it was, as Bill said, you know, I'd be the first to refute what he said if it weren't true.
Would, yes.
But it was not. I mean, it was lovely. And I find myself, in fact, I apologize to a couple folks because I find myself, and I don't even realize I'm doing it because of my former life, like I start interviewing people without even recognizing it. So how long have you been here? How long have you done what you've done? What's the best part about your job? And then I'm like, okay, I got to step back. I'm not writing a story.
But that can make you a popular person at a party because most people like to talk about themselves.
That's true.
And if you're asking them questions to talk about themselves, they'll like
easy.
you.
And one of the people that Maria may have been interviewing last night was the new president of Shepherd, Dr. Cameron Wesson, who I think arrived in town yesterday or day before yesterday, so he's brand new.
Yeah, he was talking about walking his dogs and being at Pope Deacon and all the things.
Will he live there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Let's welcome in our first guest. He is the chairman of the Democratic Party in West Virginia, again, reelected to that position, Delegate Michael Pushkin. Mike, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Always good to talk to y'all.
You've been watching any Mountaineer baseball the last month?
I have. I hope they can bank some of the runs they scored last night and carry those over into the game against North Carolina.
You know, it's funny you say that.
I don't think it works like that.
No, my mother used to always say that. Growing up in Pittsburgh, we'd watch the Pirates, and she'd say, "Oh, they're scoring too many runs tonight. They're going to need some of those tomorrow. They should save some." And I'd say, "Mom, it doesn't work that way." And then they'd get shut out the next night. And she'd go, "See, I told you."
Well,
Mothers know.
That is a concern, especially with the Pirates. That's always a concern.
Oh, don't get me started. Although they did win yesterday. Good comeback.
The unsung hero, I think, of the regions has been this Montesa, the pitcher, who was not the top one or two, and he was not well known. But man, he's had 2 great games that he's pitched.
Dominant yesterday. Gavin Kelly 3-run homer. That helps. So.
And it's exciting to watch them, but you can tell, you know, the social media stuff, they're just good young men. I mean,
that's part of it.
And they have an incredible relationship. And whatever happens, I mean, we're in the Final Four, you all, so it's pretty amazing. So,
yeah, it really is, and they play like a team, and that's what makes it so fun to watch. It's been a good sports month for me because I'm also a longtime fan of the New York Knicks.
Oh,
so
cool.
I've been through a lot of bad Knicks teams over the past 50 years or so. The last time they played in the finals was I believe 99,
right,
and lost to the Spurs, and then they just beat the Spurs, and they play like a team, and that's why that's been the key to their success is nobody really acts like a superstar, and they just play as a cohesive unit.
How does a guy in Charleston, West Virginia, become a Knicks fan, Mike?
Well, I root for New York teams, and I'm born and raised in Charleston, but I'm a Jets fan. So definitely not a bandwagon jumper. My sense of loyalty there is I'm a big football fan, so the Jets are my favorite team, and then the Knicks. But I also root for the Yankees. So that's not something I commonly let people know about, though.
I thought most Jets fans were Mets fans, and most Giants fans were Yankees fans. I thought that's how the breakdown looked in New York.
Since they've moved around, I guess it used to be like that when the Jets played in Queens.
Yeah.
But both teams play in northern New Jersey.
All right, let's talk about you. Once again, Democratic chairman.
Well, we could do a sports show if you want. I can talk about sports all day.
All right, let's do World Cup. You following any soccer? Any of the football?
No, I don't understand that at all.
Well, there you go. That's why I don't talk to World Cup about people.
I know. I was reading comments on something, and a gentleman was writing about the World Cup, and he had an American friend who just didn't understand. And when U.S. played the first game, this friend asked him what the score was, and he said, well, it's 3-0 at the end of the half. And he's like, translate that for me. And he said, well, it's like 21-0. So, it's a good analogy for soccer.
Well, that was a great first half the U.S. played against Paraguay. I've never seen the U.S. men's national team play that style, that aggressively, and with that much skill and confidence. So I hope they can keep that up. Mike, back to you.
Sorry.
And let's talk about the fact that you are once again chairman of the Democratic Party. Tell me about that process and how that all takes place.
Yeah, about a week and a half ago, so I believe June 6th, the West Virginia Democratic Party held its organizational meeting, which we are required to do within a certain amount of days of the primary. The majority of our executive committee is elected by the primary voters, same as the Republican Party, where we have 4 Democrats from each of the 17 senatorial districts. Of course, there are other like ex officio members, whether that's the president of the Federation of Democratic Women or the head of the Young Democrats or the County Chair Association. But that makes up the executive committee. And we have every 4 years after the primary, there's an organizational meeting where we elect the officers. And, the first officer position we vote on is the officer of chair. I ran for re-election and got a majority of the votes. And, it was a good process. It's a healthy process. It brings up a lot of hard discussions. And I've said it, many times, it's easy to hear, praise and compliments. It's more difficult to hear the constructive criticism. But I hear it, and I'm having a lot of good conversations with the folks who supported my opponent. And it helps me do a better job going forward.
Teresa Torreseva was your opponent, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Do you have a good relationship with Teresa going forward, Mike?
Yes, she served as the vice chair for about 3.5 years. But no, she's still a member, a member of the committee.
So, obviously, if you get reelected, it means that they think you're doing a good job and that you've got a good plan going forward. So let's talk about some of your accomplishments as the chairman of the state's Democratic Party and going forward what your plan is to strengthen it.
Okay, well, we really focused on candidate recruitment. I really feel like the most important thing is putting candidates on the ballot. I think of the state party as like the infrastructure or the delivery system, and what are we delivering? We're delivering candidates. If you don't have candidates on the ballot, I guarantee it, you're not going to win anything. You got to give people something to vote for. So we had very robust and innovative candidate recruitment program where we used texting into some districts where it was more challenging to find candidates. We had a texting program. Just a lot of networking with our county chairs and other folks all throughout the state to identify and recruit top-notch candidates up and down the ballot. And that drove voter turnout. I mean, there were a whole lot of things that went into the numbers that you look at on May 12th. But there's all sorts of polling, and there's people have the best their opinions. But what we have are real numbers from May 12th, and what it showed is Democratic turnout in many counties was in the high 30s, and Republican turnout in most counties was in the low 20s. and the results really speak for themselves. If we look at the statewide races that we had in the May primary, where the candidates that we were supporting for Supreme Court, they won. They've already been sworn in. We feel we now have a 3-2 majority on the Supreme Court, and you're going to see decisions that definitely are more to the benefit of working West Virginians than you've had in quite some time. And then on the intermediate court, which is also a statewide office, we had a registered Democrat, and Jim Douglas, who made no bones about it. When if you heard his stump speech, he started off by telling everybody he is a Democrat, he's pro-choice, and he's pro-vaccine. And he beat his Republican opponent in that race, and it wasn't even close. Now, a lot of that had to do with the Democratic turnout, and had we not given our Democratic voters people to vote for, we don't feel the turnout would have been nearly as great. So we're very proud about that, and it's going to have a long-lasting effect on one branch of government. So we'll see, one branch of government down, 2 to go. We're going to keep working.
Mike, the Boone County registration numbers have flipped. I saw that story on Metro News, and I know they got a comment from you in regards to that. Talk about that situation for a moment, because I believe that's the first time in the county's history that they flipped to a majority Republican registration.
Well, I don't know how long they've been recording the history, but Boone, I believe Boone County was formed prior to the state seceding from Virginia. So I'd have to imagine that in history they've had a majority Republican registration, at least during Reconstruction. I don't want to get into the whole history of it, but no, we're always concerned when we see those types of numbers. But the most important numbers are who comes out to vote. And even in Boone County, our numbers on Election Day were very good. Our candidates were getting more votes in the primary than the Republican candidates, and Democrats were coming out to vote in much higher percentages. So we still feel very good about our chances going into November, even in places like Boone County. And the key to that is we have quality candidates, and we're giving folks down there something to vote for, and all over the southern coal fields and in north central West Virginia and the northern Panhandle and the eastern Panhandle, folks have choices, and we have great Democratic candidates up and down the ballot.
Maria.
Mike, talk about what you think the implications of the Republican Party for all intents and purposes shutting the door to independents, non-affiliated voters during the primary. How much did that help the Democratic Party?
Well, I think it was a big mistake on their part, and but far be it from us to interrupt our opponents while they're making a mistake. But the results speak for themselves. If you look at these judicial races, the two Supreme Court justices that were appointed by Governor Morrissey, they lost. And they lost to candidates that most of us in the Democratic Party were supporting. And again, in their intermediate Court of Appeals race, a registered Democrat who made it very clear that he was a registered Democrat as he traveled throughout the state, he won, and it wasn't close. So yeah, I think there was an effect, and there was not a huge increase in Republican ballots being cast. I think the effect that they hoped it would have, that all these independents and unaffiliated voters would change their registration to vote in their primary, that's not what we saw. In fact, I think that they have really alienated one of the fastest growing voting blocks in the state, and independent voters.
Bill Stubblefield.
And you will see effects from that in the fall. I mean, a lot of these folks, they've already voted for our Democratic candidates once. It'll make it that much easier for them to make the right decision this fall and elect great Democratic candidates up and down the ballot.
Did you have a follow-up, Maria?
No, I'm good.
Bill?
Mike, Bill Stubblefield, you cited 2 or 3 times that in the primary that the Democrats turned out in larger number than the Republicans. The Democratic primary was open, which means independent and non-affiliated could vote. when you cite your numbers, are you including everyone that voted in the Democratic primary, or you are segregating the Democrats from the non-affiliated?
No, well, we don't even have those numbers yet. Okay. Of how many unaffiliated voters requested Democratic ballots. What I'm citing is, county by county number. It's a percentage of how many Democrats turned out compared to the percentage of Republicans who turned out. So, the overall voter turnout, generally in a midterm primary, it's historically low, and it was this time, it's 21%, which is unfortunately par for the course for a midterm primary. But if you break down those numbers county by county and break it down by political party, Democrats were in the high 30s in many counties and Republicans were in the low 20s. Now, what brings that number down even further are independent voters that unfortunately have the lowest voter turnout historically, which are usually below 20%. So, no, that's not counting the independent voters who requested Democratic ballots. We don't even have those numbers yet.
Okay. What do you say is the major issues going into the general election, Mike?
Well, I would say it's always about the economy. I think what James Carville said a long time ago, it's the economy. It's always that, and I think when folks go to go fill up their cars and they see the high gas prices due to really reckless foreign policy on the part of the Trump administration. We can talk about that if you want. Or they go to the grocery store, and this president said that he was going to go after inflation on day one, and now he's saying that he loves inflation, which I don't know why anybody would possibly say that. Or here on a state level, when you see the Speaker of the House and the Republican supermajority just rolling out the red carpet for data centers all over the state, when the people clearly want to have a say-so in this. They want local control in regards to the regulation of data centers. Or just the frustration with the mismanagement of this government that we've seen over the past decade of Republican rule. Those are the issues. It's always about kitchen table issues. It's always the issues that affect the day-to-day lives of West Virginians.
You did not mention education. I see the Supreme Court.
I should have because you're seeing school closures. Maybe not up in your part of the state, but in many parts of the state, we're seeing schools closed. We have counties that are horribly underfunded because the legislature, the Republicans in the legislature, failed to take up the bill that they talked about all throughout the offseason to update the school funding formula, and instead they put another $300 million into the voucher program, taking money out of public education. So, thanks for pointing that out. I'm sorry I left that out because that is an issue that drives people to the polls as well.
The Supreme Court will probably be taking up this issue. Who has the ultimate authority, the State Board of Education or the legislators? Do you see that this will become an issue for the general election as well?
I don't know. I mean, to me, I don't know if that's as much of an election issue. It's a constitutional issue. I know that your friend up there ran a bill knowing it was unconstitutional to get this case in front of the court. I will say that we have a much different Supreme Court than we did last week.
Who's our friend up here?
Thanks to Delegate Hornby ran the bill.
Thank you.
Knowing that it was unconstitutional. I'm on the Education Committee, and we brought that up. And he said yes. I mean, he got the bill passed in order to bring this in front of the court. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to make any predictions on how they rule on this. I don't know. I will say we have a much different Supreme Court than we did last week.
And the bill you're talking about is House Bill 2755, which is the center of the conflict or the discussion with the Supreme Court.
Yes, whether or not the legislature has the rulemaking authority over the Department of Education. So personally, I think it's kind of in the weeds for most voters. I think most people, what they care about in many parts of the state are whether their kids are going to have a school to go to, or their community is going to have a school. If their child's going to have to ride an extra 45 minutes on the school bus because our counties are underfunded right now in regards to public education, and we're seeing so many school closures. That's what people care about. I don't know if they're really paying attention to this particular case I know of another case that says we should have our day in court in front of the Supreme Court, and that's in regards to House District 91 up there, where they, removed one delegate and appointed another one, and didn't follow the law when they did it. The Supreme Court kept pushing that case off, and fairly soon the Democratic Party will have our day in court over that case as well.
What about the vaccines? Has that been litigated by the Supreme Court?
I believe there's an appeal. I think it's still. I don't know if it's in front of the Supreme Court or the intermediate court, but I believe that would be coming up as well. And I think it's very clear in our state code, and it wasn't. There was an effort by the governor to change state code, and it failed. So instead, the governor goes out and finds a plaintiff, and supports a lawsuit against the state that he's supposed to be governing, and it's very odd. But I think that hopefully the court rules the right way and rules in the favor of protecting our children.
Did you have a question, Maria?
Quickly, Mike, you talked about your robust candidate recruitment. How many? Are there any blank spots on the ballot for the fall on the Democratic side?
Yeah, unfortunately there are. The goal was always 100%. And we saw huge improvements, but there are a few. I believe that in the Senate district up there, Senate District 16, and in the unexpired race in Senate District 3, which was a tough place to recruit as well. But of the 19 Senate races, because there are 2 unexpired races, we have Democrats in 17 of those. And in the 100 House races, I believe we filled the ballot in 90 of those. The goal was always 100%, but we fell just a little short of that. But the good news is it's a heck of a lot more than we had 2 years ago.
Mike, do you know the state breakdown in terms of registered voters, Democrat, non-affiliated, and Republican?
Well, it's changing all the time. I know that over the summer we're also going to have partisan voter registration drives. And summertime's a good time to do that when you have different events throughout the state. So once our county committees have their reorganizational meetings and we have our new officers elected, our new county committee members are all take their places. We will be working with them and some other allied groups to do some voter registration drives as well. But the numbers are always changing.
I have 30 seconds left.
I think Mon County's gone back and forth several times over whether it was a Democratic majority or a Republican majority.
The latest is that it is a Democratic, at least plurality in Mon County, right?
In Mon County, it's gone back and forth a few times. So these things are fluid.
All right. Hey, man, thanks. I appreciate your time this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Have a great day. Mike Pushkin.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike is, of course, the chairman of the state's Democratic Party, recently reelected over Teresa Torres.